G'day everybody, this is part 3 of the Speed Passion LM-1 build series. Part 3 here, what we'll be doing is continuing on with building the motor pod, and we will also be adding first part of the, I guess you'll call it the transmission. It's the rear axle and ball diff assembly. Now, as I have said previously, what I will be doing through this build series is there are things that I will go through first off camera. If I have to, if there are double of things or triple or quadruple of things I have to build, I will build most of them and then do the last bit on camera. So I have done one thing off camera, it's just to save on time and filming. So what we need for this section are the parts necessary. So the rear axle, part of the diff assembly, ball bearings, the screws, and the motor pod mounts. Now, it's a little weird, I don't know why Speed Passion have done this, but one part of the motor pod mount is like a nylon plastic, and the other part here is aluminium or aluminum if you're from America. Honestly, I don't know why they've done it that way. If you're going to do a plastic, do a plastic. If you're going to do it in aluminium, do it aluminium. Personally, I think it's a little bit silly, but that's just my thought. So anyway, let's carry on. So what I have done is, with this section here, I have put the ball bearing in and the what is called the height adjustment, because on a pan car or a car that has a pod, what I will do is I'll just give you a quick demonstration. This is my Formula 1 car that I have. This is what is a motor pod. So as you can see, it's basically a live rear axle, and so the axle is mounted to the aluminium mount here, and so unlike traditional RC cars where you have a preload collar that adjusts your ride height, these have a fixed ride height, so to speak. So to adjust that, you have these little gizmos. Now I'm building the kit to kit setup, so this is neutral height and they have little numbers marked on it. So this is a 0, and how it works is it will go in to here like so, and each one, the little hole will be offset to determine your ride height at the rear. So anyway, let's carry on with it. What we need to do is we need this part of the motor mount, and we need sort of like a funny little moon shaped part that will go in here. We'll need the screw and a 1.5mm Allen key driver. Now, so it'll go in fairly easy. And as always, people, like I say, don't try not to over tighten it, because you will strip the thread. So as soon as you feel it nip tight, that'll do. Alright, so now what we'll do is we'll put the ride height in. Now in this case, because this is the 0, the circle is perfectly in the middle, so it doesn't matter what way you put it in. But take note of the other ones, because like I said, this circle here at the top, if you have different ride heights, that circle will be offset. So just be careful and note the orientation. So now we put the bearing in. Pretty straightforward. Alright, so now the next part, what we'll do is I'll move the main chassis over here, is we'll need to be putting in the rear brace. So we'll need the screws necessary, So now what we need is our 2mm Allen driver. Now when you're building this too, especially for a rear pod, you need to do it on a flat surface so it doesn't tweak the chassis. So I will explain how this works. So we will just tighten up the screws enough, and okay, so just enough. Okay, so this part, because this is metal, we'll need some thread lock, and we will put a bit of thread lock on, place it through, and then we will just tighten it up. Just be careful when you're doing it, because you can strip metal threads. I mean, a company like Speed Passion, they will, their quality of stuff, well, I'm hoping is pretty good. I mean, I've had a couple of their speed controllers over the years. They're pretty good. Alright, so when you're doing it, just nip it tight, and just be careful with the plastic part. Okay, so on a flat surface, make sure it's in tight, but not too tight. Okay, so alright, so there we go. So that's the rear. This is the rear part of the motor pod. So now what we will be doing is we will be placing it onto the chassis. So that will mean we have to flip it over upside down and place the rear part of the chassis on. Okay. Now, careful with this part. So remember, metal parts, they will require a little thread lock, not a lot, and then we will put in the screws. Just make sure not to strip it, and make sure that you put it in square so you don't cross thread the screws, because they can be a little bit expensive to replace them all. And also be careful like when I was saying about tools as well, when you're doing it, I don't like to use the cheap tools that come with the kit, because I find the quality of the metal is inferior, and what can happen is you can end up stripping the actual tip of the Allen key. I mean, everyone has their own preference. I've been in this hobby for many years, so I've got the tools to build a kit. But if this is your first time building one of these kits, by all means, just go ahead and use the supplied tools. But I prefer if you do have some proper tools. Okay, so that's the rear pod on. Now it's a case of putting on the axle. Now what this is the first part of the ball diff. So what we'll do here is you line it up with the hole, and the this here is like a little spring pin, so it's hollow but it's spring mounted. So when you're putting it in, you will find that it is a bit of a challenge. So you might have to excuse me a sec, people, I can't quite see. Okay, this is going to be a little awkward, so what I'm going to have to do, I'm going to have to put it in like this way first to get it through the hole. Oh. Alright, so this is going to be hard. But honestly, take your time when you're doing this, because you don't want to. Probably wouldn't hurt just to squeeze the end in a bit, just to help it feed it in. Okay. Make sure it's square when you're putting it in. Okay, I need my multi-grips. These will come in handy. Okay, now here comes the fun part. Alright, so now very carefully, have to excuse me folks, I can't find, I was going to say can't find the hole that'll leave it open for a that's what she said joke. Oh no. Okay, so it's right in on both of the holes there, so now we'll just give it a definitely putting up a decent fight. But what I will do, people, is I'll have to do this off camera. It's a little hard, but what we will be doing, to continue this, you have two spacers. One spacer will go over here. Then we will thread the axle through the bearings. Be very careful. And then we'll put the second spacer on the opposite side. Oop. Okay, so that will be the end of part 3. Like I said, off camera I've just got to put this pin through. It's very tight. So stay tuned for part 4, where we will be. Well, this will be the rest of the rear axle and the ball diff assembly. So stay tuned for that, and then after that we'll be getting on with the steering. So stay tuned, people.